The Oak of Languages, 14 categories, branches, ancient and modern cultures, and the Zaza linguistic technique, and the Shepherd's system, semantics and phonetics. Dear friends, greetings to all. To those who speak English, live with English, are learning this beautiful language, and to those who teach it with passion. My name is Metin Tunk, and I have nicknamed myself the Last Interpreter. I speak 5 languages, and this journey has led me to explore a linguistic academy of sorts, one that, around 15,000 years ago, gave rise to the agrarian revolution in the Fertile Crescent. I am very happy to present my first episode in English, a language that entered my life when I was 20 years old. Here I am once again with the second episode, full of news and emotions, with this shepherd science. The pre-agrarian monoconcepts are planted during the agrarian era. Over time, using this science, all other existing languages are created. Essentially, at the beginning of the Neolithic period, a single language gave rise to a kind of linguistic academy. The agrarian man studied and developed it through living and, most importantly, speaking. This is because it is a science that exists only in spoken form. It is transmitted orally, from generation to generation. The concepts of our pre-agrarian ancestors are composed of monosyllables, structured as follows: a vowel, and a consonant, or vice versa, or 2 consonants and a vowel. I pronounced some of these monosyllables during last Friday's episode. These concepts were collected by Homo sapiens over the past 200,000 years. Then, during the Neolithic period, with the Shepherd system, they were used to develop other languages. This linguistic academy, born at the dawn of the agrarian era, can be metaphorically represented as a great oak tree, the oak of languages. Imagine this tree. The roots represent semantics, the original meaning of concepts. The trunk symbolizes phonetics, the sound that gives life and structure to the concepts. The branches are the categories created by our ancestors. At the beginning of the Neolithic era, these branches transformed monosyllabic concepts into new words, pronunciations, and meanings. This process gave rise to languages, which we can imagine as the leaves of the oak. Now, picture a windy day. The leaves rustle, producing sounds as if telling stories in their many languages. The categories of the oak of languages, the branches. 1. Hydronymy, the science of the names of water bodies, such as seas, rivers, and lakes. 2. Toponymy, the science of the names of places, such as mountains, hills, and valleys. 3. Anthroponymy, the science of personal names, the names of humans. 4. Theonymy, the science of the names of deities and religious figures. 5. Zoomony, the science of the names of animals. 6. Botanymy, the science of the names of plants. 7. Astronomy, the science of the names of celestial bodies, stars, and cosmic phenomena.
8. Anatomy, the science of the names of the parts of the human and animal body. 9. Coloronomy, the science of the names of colors. 10. Mythonymy, the science of the names of myths and mythological narratives. This likely emerged during the Mesolithic period, in the age of underground cities or caves. 11. Gastronomy, the science of the names of tastes and flavors. 12. Sensonomy, the science of the names of the senses, sight, hearing, touch, taste, smell. 13. Lingonomy, the science of the names of languages. 14. Ethnonomy, the science of the names of peoples and ethnic groups. Language is the invisible thread that connects peoples, eras, and the stories of humanity. Every word we speak carries traces of a distant past, rich in meaning, culture, and identity. Through language, our roots intertwine, creating a universal network of understanding that spans generations. In this journey into the heart of linguistics, we explore how our ancestors, with their extraordinary ability to observe and interpret the world, gave rise to profound and universal concepts. Born in the pre-agrarian period, these concepts transformed during the agrarian era, evolving into diverse forms and becoming the foundations of the languages and cultures we know today. Finally, we arrive at ethnonomy, the science of the names of peoples and ethnicities. With this, we can say that the entire history of Homo sapiens has been narrated through pre-agrarian concepts, rich in meaning. This science, which I call oral archaeology, begins where the limits of material history end. It serves as a bridge between what we can touch and what we can only imagine, a journey toward a deeper understanding of our origins. The semantic and phonetic dimensions reveal that a monosyllabic concept can be pronounced in various ways. It can be repeated twice, reversed in pronunciation, or combined with another monosyllabic concept. These variations create new words, whose meanings often remain connected to the original monosyllabic components. Additionally, a single concept can acquire multiple meanings. Phonetically, a concept can be expressed in many variations, depending on the frequency or intonation with which it is pronounced. For instance, the same concept, pronounced in two different sentences, can generate two distinct meanings, sometimes even opposite ones. I am familiar with these techniques because my native language, Zaza, contains the same principles. Naturally, this academy within me was shaped with the help of the other languages I know. I imagine these techniques also live on in the languages spoken in these mountains, the Taurus Mountains, where the first oak of languages was domesticated and planted. This is precisely the place where I was born and where I learned my first two languages, Zaza and Turkish.
At this moment, I would like to read you the chapter related to this language. It is titled, The Language to Discover. At the end of this explanation, I will read other two chapters that describe these concepts in written form from my book. Of course, it is not easy for me to explain an entire academy in just a few words, which is why I will often rely on the book, which is more carefully crafted thanks to the guidance of my beloved ex-girlfriend, the queen of all the women I've had in my life. What I am presenting about our ancestors is that they are the ones who created the Neolithic era, and they are the same ones who created Adam and Eve. Now, I would like to read you the chapters one mentioned. These chapters, related to today's episode, can be found in my book titled The Mother Tongue of Sapiens. These chapters will shed some light on my journey through this linguistic science, which corresponds to the oak of languages. The first chapter is titled Lexicon of Monoconcepts and Prelanguage, page 28. During its Paleolithic journey, Homo sapiens, using celestial calendars, also discovered the Earth. For this reason, one of the oldest concepts is geo. By learning directions and following the indicators of coasts, seas, rivers, and mountains, Homo sapiens identified and named natural phenomena, assigning them a name that remained unchanged over time. As time passed, during the agricultural revolution, these same names and concepts took on different forms and meanings, adapting to changes in the languages that emerged during this agrarian period. Naturally, the hunter-traveler Homo sapiens, through repeated journeys across continents, particularly in Africa, Asia, and Europe, gave rise to a monosyllabic lexicon, multi-pronounced, phonetic, and multi-meaning, semantic. The second chapter is The Language to Discover. This section refers to my theory explained in the article by Fiora Bonelli, published on December 30th, 2018, in Il Torino. After having the honor of speaking with her on the phone for about 20 minutes regarding this language and its technique, she distilled our entire conversation into a single concept, the language to discover. There couldn't have been a more fitting phrase. My childhood was very interesting regarding my autonomous choices and their consequences. I realized much later that, at the age of 11, I had begun to academically explore the technique of the ancient language spoken by my grandparents in the village of Milan, Gökdere, in Turkish. I had just completed my 5th grade at the modern Turkish school in Bingöl, so when I moved to Milan at the age of 11, I was already bilingual. Milan is a self-managed village following an ancient model, with its own language, Zaza. From that time, I began translating from Turkish to Zaza. I often read and orally translated letters written to loved ones, lovers, or translated commercial or bureaucratic conversations. People would reward me with walnuts, candies, cheeses, or toys. My life as a translator continued in Italy, and today I also work professionally in this field. In this book, I would like to emphasize that I am a translator not only of some modern languages, but also of the ancient cultures connected to them. Thanks to the particular technique of Zaza, I also endeavor to translate the first language from the Neolithic period, which we will see some examples of later. Being bilingual at 11 was the beginning of my language comparison journey. During the 3 years I spent in Milan, where life was very different from that in Bengal, I began observing the way of life, communication, family, education, rituals, and the use of tools such as calendars, compasses, and geographical or topographical directions, all entirely oral. This system is closely connected to zoology, astronomy, botany, and ecology, and it is based on the culture of wheat, which represents the first pillar of the Third Revolution. Moving to Milan at the age of 11, convincing my parents, and leaving my friends and neighborhood in Bengal was an inner evolution for me. The village of Milan, where my grandparents, both maternal and paternal, lived, is located on top of the Taurus Mountains, 25 kilometers from my hometown Bengal, situated on the slopes of this mountain chain in the Taurus Mountains. My refuge in Milan was the karma that set the foundation for studying the technique of the first agrarian language, known as the language of the shepherd. The language of the shepherd. The famous shepherd in monotheistic religions, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, is a biblical figure whose mission is to transmit a language. Using the shepherd system, which relates to the categories mentioned above, the language I observed while shepherding in Milan, on the mountains of the Fertile Crescent, is the same as the first culture of the agrarian man. The technique of the language of the shepherd is precisely that of the first shepherd's culture, agrarian man, who, by naming everything that exists, with all the concepts, multi-meanings, and multi-pronunciations, from the past, the 2 revolutions, carries them in his lunch bag, toward the concept, living and transmitting them within the aforementioned categories. The language I delved into on the Taurus Mountains, while shepherding in Milan, is the same as the first culture of the agrarian man, in the same area, with the same form of social organization. With this episode, we've taken another step together on this journey to understand our linguistic and cultural roots. Every concept, every word, every story we share is a piece of the grand mosaic that unites us as human beings, beyond time and space. If you enjoyed what you heard, I invite you to follow this channel and continue this journey with me. Your presence and support are essential to giving voice to these stories, discoveries, and this bridge between the past and the present. Thank you for being part of this adventure, for listening, learning, and helping to spread knowledge. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode, where we'll continue to explore the wonders of language and culture.